Going once, going twice, sold! You're listening to The Property Pod, an accessible and easy way to get into or help understand the goings-on of the property market. Join Aaron, John and Pat as they discuss all things real estate, most likely get sidetracked, and then try and rein it all back in as they present The Property Pod.
That's right, baby. We're back. And this time we famous.
Yeah.
Let it be known we made it to the newspaper. Here I am. I'm Aaron Horn. I'm back. I'm famous. I'm wearing my sunglasses and I am arrogant Aaron.
Well, actually, no, from now on, it's always been known that I'm now Luke's brother.
Yes.
I've got a name again. John McGregor.
John McGregor from the Mercury newspaper.
Or from a Monday print in the newspaper.
No, shout out to the Mercury. The Property Pod has made it. We've reached more people than our family, and now people know who we are.
Yeah. Actually,
I think.
Well, even my cousin reached out and said, "Oh, I just saw your article in the newspapers. Like, didn't you see my previous Facebook posts?" Yeah. Apparently not.
No, they're keeping up with the Mercury, not with us.
Not with us.
I got a shout out from Barcelona. I got a friend working on a super yacht over there, so she was just like, "Oh, damn, you meant the paper."
Yeah, we international.
Hells yeah! So international, our numbers are boosting. Time will tell if the article goes anywhere further. But shout out to Jared Bevan for chucking that together for us.
Yeah, and there's the photographer behind the scenes, Rogers. He's a cool dude.
He was a cool dude. Yeah, I think he just really enjoyed the banter of just us talking.
Yeah,
and here we go. So we're at it again. We're having a chat. Pat's pretty quiet over there. You all right, mate?
I'm all good. All good.
You're just saying low key famous. Yeah. You're just like, I don't want it to all go to my head.
Well, it's just no one can see the giant coat and cane that he's sitting there with his scepter, drinking out of your goblet with encrusted gold jewels.
Yeah, I wanted to know, how's the coffee taste out of that goblet?
Man, you guys talk. And this is the first episode after our newspaper. We're hoping for a good outcome. Yeah. This is what you two bring to the table.
We're just bringing the bands,
high
baby.
Class. High class.
Alrighty,
it was really cool to get that shout out in the paper, I must say.
Yeah.
And it was really cool for the Dominic Old Scholars to share it as well. So that was really good.
It's kind of crazy to think, weren't you going to pass on the information to them just to say, like, maybe you could help share this so people know? And then they contacted you beforehand?
Yeah, I sent them a message saying, "Hey guys, could you give us a shout out with this article in the newspaper?" And before I'd even had a chance, they'd already put it up and they'd messaged me back saying we're all on top of it. So they found it before I had a chance to tell them about it, which is really cool.
Yeah, they've got their Dominic spies out there, so...
You've got to hand it to the old scholars. They do a good job. Like, I get that Veritas mag. Is it once every quarter or something like that as well, or month?
Yeah, whenever I'm at Mum's house, she'll be like, "Oh, the Veritas showed up." And I'm like, "Oh, all right, I'll have a look at that."
Yeah,
see
Mum and
what
Dad
everyone's
bring
up
them.
to.
Well, it's pretty cool actually.
Yeah.
They do. They do an awesome job.
Yeah, no, shout out to the Dominic Old Scholars and shout out to just everybody that checked us out after the newspaper. It was really humbling, even though we might be bragging now. It was really humbling to be in there, and yeah, it's nice if it's just picked up any extra listeners.
Yeah,
then that'll be a really cool result. And as I said in a Facebook post afterwards advertising it, Jared, you're always welcome in the studio, mate. We'd love to talk real estate with you. So if you're still listening and not off your radar.
I'm pretty sure that article was just so he could avoid being on the show. Wasn't that the more so the case?
Probably.
We reached out to get him on the show and he's like, "Oh, what if I...
just do an article instead?"
Yeah, butter up the deal this way. So today we've actually got another Dominic Old Scholar with us. We've got a guest in today that we'll find out about very soon. But, it'd be interesting. I think we're going to talk investing today. Is that right, Pat?
That's spot on, yeah. We're just going to talk investing, but more from someone that's actually doing it rather than us telling you how to do it. We've got somebody in that does it, so...
Yeah, cool. Well, maybe we'll throw off to ad number one and then we'll introduce our guest.
Sounds good.
Alrighty.
As a family-run business, First National Real Estate McGregor understands that the property market can be stressful. However, with a strong team in both sales and rentals, we are here to guide you through the property maze. Find out more today at mcgregorfm.com.
All right, here we are. We're back for the deep dive, and we've got our guest Blake Smedley with us today. He is a Dominic Old Scholar, as I mentioned before, but we don't know too much else about him. So could you just introduce yourself, tell us how you got into talking on this podcast?
Yeah, sure thing. So I met Patrick when I was actually just recently purchasing my second investment property out in Berridale. And he just let me know about this podcast, gave it a crack pretty much straight away. Because, I don't know, just hearing that there was a podcast about the property market here just in Hobart.
Yeah.
Pretty like...
Yeah, it's pretty out there.
It's awesome,
Yeah,
though.
you
wouldn't
really expect it, but yeah, we're having a crack at it.
Yeah, no. So, I was like, that sounds all right.
Yeah, 10 days later, we sucked you into coming in on the show yourselves.
Pretty much, yeah.
Done well.
Yeah.
It was really funny because Pat came back from your meeting and he said, I think I've got a guest for the podcast. And I was like, oh, yeah. Well, who is it? And he said, yeah, this really cool guy is coming he's a young investor. I reckon he'd have a bit to say. I was like, all right, let's see if he comes in. And I was like, this is never going to happen. like he's just like, Pat's like, oh, yeah, I made the sale and I'm going to get a guest. I don't know, mate.
Do I ever not deliver?
No,
And yeah,
there you go. You don't.
He's not low key anymore.
I'm on 3 guests, John. How many guests are you on?
Hang on a minute. I've got one coming up.
One coming up.
But beer.
Blake's actually
Yeah.
bringing in some guests
There you
next
go.
week, so
Oh, yeah,
we need to catch up.
Right,
Jesus.
when I get my Mercury headline, then we'll start talking. All right.
It's just going to be me. Like, let's start an online tally of how many guests, and I'm just going to be chasing my tail the whole time.
When aren't you chasing your tail, though, John?
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about yourself, Blake, other than you met Pat and he roped you into talking.
Yeah,
On here?
well. So basically I Tassie local.
Yep.
So raised here around the kind of northern suburbs area.
For sure.
So that's kind of where I started my property investing deal as well. So wanted to start somewhere that I was a bit familiar with. So I got my first one up in Bridgewater, but I kind of just knew the area.
Yep.
So what made you decide to get into investing property? A lot of people sort of say for a deposit with that vision of buying their first home, you've gone a slightly different route and gone and bought a couple of investment properties.
So I guess where it all started was it was me and a mate talking about, I don't know, just toying with the whole idea of the financial freedom kind of thing, the one that everyone
Everyone's chasing.
Yeah, everyone's chasing.
Get out of the rat race.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Of course, everyone's talking about it. And then, just the idea of property investing came up as a pretty viable kind of thing that we pursued the thought of. And it just seemed like seems overly complicated, a bit daunting, like, how does it actually work? What's the whole process? And then it just turned into, well, actually, it isn't actually that hard. You kind of just get a loan and get started, and then you just go from there.
Yep.
So obviously, stepping back a bit, you did a little bit of research to figure out what area you wanted to buy in first, or was there resources you went out and utilised, I guess, to figure out that, radio, this area is the spot for me to buy my first one in? Or
To be absolutely honest, was a little bit of a whirlwind, the first one, though I don't know if it always feels like a whirlwind. I mean, at least it did for me, because I've got no background in finance or anything like that, so
Yeah.
I went to uni for social science and human resource management. I'm not stupid with money, but I haven't got any real financial expertise.
And there's not like just a side as part of social science that just there's one little segment that says, advanced property investing is part of your social science.
Oh, yeah, no, that elective was, it might have been there.
Wasn't there.
Yeah, no, not that time,
Yeah.
not for my run. The main resources I just used realestate.com really to start off with, just to see what the market's like.
So just kind of trawling through the internet, just sitting on your laptop, kind
Yeah,
of just looking and finding out what prices are for.
I was pretty clear on what kind of property I wanted to get as an investment. So it was like, I want something that is on the more affordable side of things, for at least my first investment property. And I'm pretty young, can't really afford too much else. But I want it to have the highest rental yield, I suppose, or the highest rental income for what I'm paying.
Of course, makes sense.
Yeah, right, pretty basic. So that automatically, the suburbs that kind of tick both those boxes became pretty clear pretty quickly.
For sure.
Yep. And I also wanted to make sure it was around areas that I was familiar with. So, there are some over on the Eastern Shore where it's potentially pretty good. I'm just not that familiar with them, to be honest. So.
Yeah, or you could kind of look down beyond Kingston or something, but it's not
Yeah.
something that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
So you've looked into the northern suburbs
That's
as
it.
a
Yeah.
base.
The other thing too is that if you know the suburb, you know specific streets as well. Those to buy and those
Yep.
to avoid.
Yep.
Depending upon
Hands
the street.
down. That was a factor as well. Yep. And you just, I don't know, there's just contextual things about property. Like if you know the area, you just got a better understanding of what you're getting into.
Yeah,
What you can expect from tenants, what's normal behaviour, because that's a huge part of it, like the whole.
Well, because I think Bridgewater and Gagebrook, etc., is like made up of nearly 50-60% investorship. So, I mean, the standard in Tassie is like at 30%, so 30-30-30, if you use it as a general rule. So that's like a higher investor area. And I'll often say, because, people will look at, especially from interstate, they'll go, right, good price, high yield. my sort of conversation I have with people who don't know the area is, look, it's a phenomenal place to invest. Be careful because reality is, high yields usually mean high risk. So that's why, knowing that area well, I'm guessing you could be careful about what you chose to purchase as well, knowing you could get the best result from that.
I think high risk, though, can be minimised with the right person looking after the property.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you've got the wrong rental team looking after it, or you don't have the right policy and procedures in place, your risk level is going to go up a lot higher on an investment property out there.
No, that's a fair point. And
So that is for sure true. That was one of the biggest things. If I'm going to invest somewhere that does have a little bit higher risk, than say purchasing somewhere, I don't know, just a real middle class suburb kind of thing. I don't know, however you want to put it. But I very much had strong intentions to look after the place. I got the place, gave it a paint job, gave it new carpets off the bat, want to attract the right kind of tenants, show that I'm coming off on the right foot. I didn't really have the time. I suppose this is something that I would change next time. Didn't have the time to really get to know a property manager.
Sure.
Before,
so kind of just jumped straight in.
Kind of just jumped straight. I mean, it ended up working out. I've got to admit, there was a few flukes through this process.
Yeah, which is always helpful.
Yeah, it's always helpul.
When lady luck sides with you,
yeah,
so to speak.
Yep. So, but just making sure you got the right property manager that you kind of get, that gets you and that knows exactly what you're kind of after.
You both got the same expectations and you're chasing the same thing.
It just meant that I could get this place, look after it, get the right tenants in, make sure that they feel looked after. I did the whole, when they moved in, they wanted to bring in a pet. And it's like, okay, there's a bit more risk. And I was like, rather than kind of say, make it all weird, it was like, well, I'll buy you guys some cat treats and I'll buy whatever it was, then put it like a gift card or whatever. Yeah, just to say, yeah,
I'll look after you.
I'll look after you.
Me.
Yeah, you look after me, and it's just worked out.
Yeah,
I think that concept goes a long way as well. That idea of if you can give the tenant something in return, just to say, look, we appreciate what you're doing. I think they're more likely to look after the property and look after the property better.
Yeah, create that emotional connection of this is your home for now, and this is the place that you'll be in. But let's work together as a team and respect one another and respect the space.
And hey, look, and just to take it, on a little side note of just pure investing, part of me, I do like to think of myself as like a somewhat decent human being. I do want to look after people, and just I don't know, just goes.
Oh, thank God we didn't get a slumlord in there.
You look like a bit of a slumlord with your jacket and cane over there, Pat.
Yeah, no.
Put the goblet down.
Left that outfit at home. No.
So, just going from there, Pat, I think, mentioned that you've invested it in your second property in Berridale or Rosetta.
That's it, yeah, Berridale.
Yep. So you've kind of moved from one suburb, you've kind of got a little bit closer to the CBD. Is that kind of a goal too, or it just happened that a property came up, you just found it and went from there?
Oh, the second one was a little tricky. So back when I got this first property, the market, I suppose, was just a little different. I suppose,
probably wasn't as fast as what it is.
It was super fast.
What year did you buy your first one in?
It was 2017, the end of 2017. It wasn't even that long ago.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it was.
Yeah,
relatively. But I don't know. There are a few places on the market for less than 200 grand back then.
Yep.
But this time around, that was just damn near impossible to find. At least anything that's in decent shape.
Yes.
Decent enough.
That
shape.
you need to, unless you're going to put a full refit and do so much to it.
Redo the whole thing. It's just not worth it.
Yep.
So, it's just kind of, if I was going to bump up that price, then I was like, well, I might just consider looking a bit more north. To be honest, I was thinking there might be slightly more potential for capital growth, as you get closer to Hobart. Again, I'm not an expert. I'll leave that judgment up to you guys.
But your strategy's changing as you're evolving, buying new property, so
it is.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I could afford a little more this time. I had the equity in the first place.
And from what I can tell, you were sort of looking for a little while before you found this time around.
Yeah, a bit longer. Yep.
Yeah, because I did a little stalking in our database and I could see where you'd inquired about properties in the past.
Okay.
I'm like, wow, I've been looking for a little bit.
And I thought we were friends.
And Blake has stormed out.
So
guys,
was that you just being a little bit more cautious to find the right property, or was that just the fact that things were selling fast and the right place didn't come up? Or
I suppose this time when I got the first one, it just seemed the one that came up. Maybe it was a combination of it didn't take too long before the one I found. It was quite a golden opportunity. Like, it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
There was a few similar ones, but this one was just quite good. This time around, a little bit harder to find something that was so obviously like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. It's the perfect level of for an investment. But also, I'm a bit more experienced now, I'd like to think. Experienced with my one property, this whole portfolio that I'm managing.
We're all experts here, you can tell.
I can see Blake starting to turn into that slumlord like Paddy. The coach just coming on.
Yeah.
Get me a chalice.
We'll get you a cigar, mate. That'll be good. We'll kick back.
Oh, yeah, just grab one from old Patrick's collection. Sorry, mate, I don't know why I've jumped on just to get
It's all good.
It was just tell me you stalked me. It's just, I'll throw you under the bus.
That's all good. John's normally the one, so it's about my turn.
Let's ride this wave, guys. I'm going to get one there'll be 6 months. That's all I get.
Yeah, so this time around I spent a bit more time. Ended up using a few more different resources. Like, I did use titles. What's that website?
The List.
The List. Yep. Got the title for this kind of property before I went ahead, just do a bit of research. It is quite old. The second one that I got was owned by the same people. Like, since it was bought off the housing commission. So
So it's sat in the one family for quite some time, and yeah, cool.
So there was a few. This time round, I kind of knew, are there going to be any issues with easements or just, I don't know, just other stuff?
Yeah.
I'm using that word as if I kind of know really what it means. I do know what it means, but I kind of
don't,
learned
so
this
that's
stuff.
why I didn't respond.
Yeah, but I don't know, just a few things, just making sure it's all good. But
And then obviously a building inspection was something that you looked into this time as well, just to make sure everything sort of was right.
So I did do that last time as well.
Yep.
To be honest, I can't really imagine a scenario where I wouldn't get a building inspection personally. I think it would they're not that expensive. It's just worth it. It can just save your ass.
And just for peace of mind of being like, before I invest in this, I want to make sure it's rigid. And
absolutely. Like, it's not, I don't know, investing in property, I suppose the whole deal with it is, I don't know, for people who are looking at getting into property investing, on one hand, it's like it's such a complicated path. Like, what do you do? How do you start? Like, what happens if something goes wrong? Am I going to be screwed with debt for the rest of my life? But it just isn't it isn't quite that bad.
Yeah,
but
sure.
it still is quite a big investment. It's not like, buying a few $100s worth of
Xbox
shares.
or something.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not sure an Xbox. Xbox could be an investment, I suppose. But in the terms of...
Yeah,
could say,
you
like
start training up and you make your way to the esports league.
That's true. That is true. Well, they're making more
Got a
money.
plan.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you're buying an ounce of gold, you just got an ounce of gold and that'll fluctuate with the price of the market, but it's pretty easy to look after.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's just not as complicated, I suppose. So anyway, where I'm going with this is, property can get a bit complicated. Things can happen that you just think, oh my God, I've got no idea what's going on here. How did this issue happen? And just that building inspection just feel like covers you a whole lot.
I think what I like about building inspections as well, depending on what inspector you use, there are some really great ones out there. And Leon and Dale, who you use, Blake, I really like them because not only do they tell you about the house now and its current condition, they sort of prepare you for what might need to be done in 5 or 10 years' time. So they're sort of very good at saying, look, this is obviously an older home. It is what it is, but it's nothing to stress about yet. But maybe you should just prepare for in 10 years' time you might have to do this certain thing.
Yep.
And I think that's the difference between a good building inspector and a bad building inspector. Some, I feel, are there just to make money. Where I think with those guys, they're really good at educating you as the buyer what you're getting into and helping you understand what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done and what can be done later versus now, that type of stuff. And like, we were quite lucky you were able to come to the inspection with Dale and walk around. It was really good to see Dale explain all the little bits and pieces to Blake as he sort of wandered around the house and sort of said, look, this needs to be done, but don't stress about this feature.
You should expect
this job's
that.
like a 4-minute fix, like just get in there and do this. And like, it's really good when an inspector is willing to take the time to help explain all of that.
I look at it in, as a form of like in agendas or incentives. I think there are some of them that would be like, right, you go with me, I'm going to save you $10,000 on the sale because I'm going to find everything you need to find. But I don't think that's personally a good way of looking at it. Certainly, what I don't look for is that, like you both have just described, I want my building inspector to say, look, all right, you're buying a 1960s house. This is what you're going to expect with a 1960s house. Now, these are the things we have to look out for. That's a danger zone for you. And because a lot of the time, most people just want to say yes to the property, but we're looking for that advice to go, right, what can't I tackle, or what do I really have to be concerned about? And I think finding a good building inspector to fit with your, to do that for you is worth doing the research for.
Well, and I suppose that was another thing I did not do last time. I didn't go to the property, the building inspection, but this time I did. And that was, as you said, Patrick, that was super valuable just to get his insights. He obviously goes through a lot of buildings. Like, he knows exactly what to look for, just those little tips.
Oh, yeah.
And like some of those things, like one of the things that you brought up is a couple of the piers that just settled into the ground a little bit, John. So you got that creakiness in the floor.
Yep.
Really easy fix. It just needs a chock put between the top of the pier and the joist. But you read that on a building inspection report and it looks scary.
Thousands and thousands of dollars.
But it's literally like a 10-minute job. You get under there with some chocks of wood, bang, 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 done. Move to the next thing. But so I think that can be really good, and especially if you're new to investing and you don't know a lot about property, that it's a great way to get a better understanding as to what the what the issues
when
need
he was
to be.
explaining that thing to me, and he was throwing out I don't remember the words under the house.
Yeah, joists and bearers and all of this. Like,
it was like, the floor's bent, you've got to chuck a wedge underneath the joist and the whatever it was. And I was like, Jesus, this is going to be an expensive job. And he just showed me under the place, and I was like,
easy.
So
it's just valuable. Another good example, we had one at it was like a 1940s or 30s house, and there wasn't adequate ventilation because the foundation was bricked around, and underneath the house there was some, you could see even in the photos we've got that sort of the mould or the moss sort of floating under the space. But then the building inspector was like, all you need to do is so on the report that looks crazy, but then all they had to do was knock out 2 bricks on either side of the house, and that was the ventilation.
Ventilation.
Put a little grate on there and you're done.
That was it.
Yeah, you can do it yourself. It's not even that hard.
Yeah, and that's I suppose where finding a good building inspector can give you the right advice on how those repairs should be managed as well, rather than just saying, actually, another great example was we had one at in Rokeby, and it didn't have adequate drainage. So, on one advice they had, you're going to have to put in an ag drain. It's going to cost you thousands of dollars. And the next bloke said, look, if you just dig it up a bit and put some rocks, that's all you need to do. And, it's like a few $100 for the gardener rather than $10,000 investment. So, again, getting that right advice from the right person's really important.
Someone knows what they're talking about.
Because otherise, sorry to keep hijacking it, but the thing is, this was...
we're used to it.
Yeah, give me space.
They warned me about this.
Yeah, exactly. I'm waiting
I like Blake. Let's bring Blake back. Ladies and gentlemen, the 4th member of the property pod.
Bye, everybody. It's been fun. But
the tribe has spoken.
But the thing is, the owner it was a really good opportunity for them, and had we not got that second opinion, they would have walked away from the deal. Because they would have been freaked out by bad advice. So, so it's really awesome you found someone you can work with.
It's been really awesome. I suppose one other thing, just to take it a bit further than that, was the depreciation schedule. I mean, I'm saying this just, I don't know, for people listening who might be, getting into property investing, don't no idea what that is. I certainly had no idea what the hell that was.
I still don't know what it is, but when people ask me, I just say talk to those guys. So.
And look, so I guess all I can say is my experience with it, and it's just how you can write off depreciation of a house.
So it's
with tax.
For layman's terms, I guess it's for your tax return purposes at the end of the financial year each year. So it helps your accountant ride the money that you make on that property against the property. Is that a rough?
For stuff
I don't know
that's...
what I'm talking about.
Effectively,
in my head, I had kind of, but it's not coming.
I'll throw my hat in and see if I get it wrong as well.
Here we go.
Here we go.
It's going to be the end of this episode.
But effectively, you're looking at all the depreciation of the asset as a whole. So you could think of your kitchen, anything as well, and it'll have a value on that day dot. Let's just use 10 grand an example. The next year it's going to be worth 9 grand. The next year it's going to be worth 8.
Yes, that's
it. And so the depreciation sets up so that with that loss of the value in that asset, that can be then
claimed
taken.
On tax.
That's correct.
Yes. So
that's exactly what I said.
Yeah, sure it is, mate.
Yeah, it was.
For once, I actually think John articulated it better than you.
It's just that day, mate.
You're getting caned today. Pat will never bring a guest in again.
Now's my chance.
So I'll just with that one, it just ended up being
another non-cost or?
Just super worth it. Like, again, something that I had no idea what it was. It was like another situation. There was a few of these situations when you go and buy a property when I know you're not that experienced and I'm a bit of a skeptic. So I was like, do you want the depreciation schedule? Do you want whatever kind of insurance is, like title insurance? There's all these kinds of insurances and costs. And it's like, geez, is it worth spending a few $100 on this, the building inspection, all that kind of stuff? And I'm not saying, do it because it's worth the money. It's completely situational. But never, for anyone listening as well, like just don't, well, for me, I just never pretended that I knew anything what was going on.
Yeah.
There's so many situations where, you get spoken to and it's like, oh, yeah, if you want the depreciation schedule with your building inspection, it's going to cost this much. And it's like, oh, yeah, cool. But
and then you leave and you've got to go Google depreciation schedule. And it's like, what?
And even then, you're trying to read what the hell it is. Like, I mean, that was pretty articulated pretty well before. But, just even trying to read stuff and understand it, it's just like, what the hell is this? I know what I'm doing. Is it worth it? Who do I ask?
If only I'd taken that elective in my degree.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Why did I take basket weaving?
It's social science is so confusing.
So I guess looking forward, you've got 2 properties that you use as investment properties. Do you have a goal? Are you just kind of riding it out like a wave, or do you
still sticking with that dream of financial independence?
Oh yeah.
But I mean, being quite realistic about it, it's going to be a long path.
Yep.
But it's just going to be a matter of just being wise about it all. I've kind of got a bit of a simple rule, really. If I can keep getting places that generate enough rent to cover the expenses of the place, provided that nothing funky goes on.
Yep.
Because I think the biggest risk with investment properties is the tenants. So provided nothing goes wrong with the tenants, they don't destroy the house, they don't default on rent for too long, then they kind of just set and forget. You know? Yep. So that's just
that was going to be the next thing I asked is Pat talks about set and forget a fair bit in other times, but how much time do you spend a week looking after your portfolio or what goes into it? Yep. That's like you've got a full-time job, I assume.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So
doing your
because even for this first one, as soon as I got it, I went to Canberra. So I was instantly out of the state, wasn't able to. I think back then I didn't know this, but you could bloody fly and then claim those flights on tax. You can't do that anymore, so I probably shouldn't even be talking about it. But like, the
good old days.
The good old days, back when I was young. Yeah, no.
Before Pat's pimpled.
Oh, jeez.
I'm just going to go.
And now Pat has left the building.
So we're going to drop you off to work Blake in his Cadillac.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Sorry, you're flying to Canberra.
No, sorry,
that was a shit one, John.
I'm not sure what to take that one.
Swing and a miss.
Where's that cricket's noise?
I'm not brave enough.
Wasn't that one.
Close enough.
That'll play.
Yeah, that'll.
But yeah, so as soon as I got this first one, I went to Canberra. Wasn't able to do any, looking after the place at least by myself. So that's, I guess, when I mentioned before, making sure you can get a good relationship with the property manager.
Sure.
That was fortunately, again, that was another one of the flukes, like a small fluke, but I'll take it. The property manager we got each other. She was really good. She went out, on a limb. She went that extra mile and just like, if I said, could you drop off these gifts for the tenants? She'd be, oh yeah, sure thing. I'll do that next week. It was just easy. Yep. But so when I was interstate for 2 years, it was just small things checking in. I would check in. I would send emails to the property owner and say, hey, how's it all going? Thank you so much for doing all your hard work. Are the tenants happy? But what I didn't get involved with until I got back, and only real recently, is actually getting to know, and I guess I'm still to learn this lesson, if it's the right thing to do or to what extent is it the right thing to do, but putting the time in to get to know the tenant a little bit.
For sure. Yep.
Okay.
Because I think there is a line where you don't want to just, it's like, hey, if you've got any problems, send me a text.
Yeah.
Because then,
you can't be best mates with them.
Yeah, because then you need to make the hard decisions kind of thing. When something goes wrong with it, it's like, oh, we need a new fence or whatever it is, and it's like, am I going to just fuck out the much? Oh, yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Totally understand. I guess we were discussing it earlier about building a rapport and a relationship, like you said, with your cat toys and things like that. So there is as you say, align. And
Yeah, what's that balance of like? Do I give the gifts myself? Do I just get the property manager?
Yeah.
Do I make it so they get the really good relationship with the property manager, and they know through them what
By
kind
proxy.
of person I am?
Exactly.
Because one of you've got to be really careful because, I mean, the purpose of having professional management is they're negotiating on your behalf and ensuring that no lines are crossed effectively.
Yeah. Yep.
So, if any involvement that the landlord, with maybe sometimes a good intention, can actually compromise the position of the property manager in a negative way.
Yep. Yeah. And I guess, I do understand that. I do see that. So that's a lesson I'm still currently learning, I suppose. But
Gotcha.
for this place in Berrydale, I'll be looking at maintaining that same thing. Making sure the tenants know that at least the
appreciate
owner
it.
of the
Yeah,
place, they're
you want them to be
appreciated.
happy. Yeah.
And
And-
to the extent that I'm involved directly with that.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like at Christmas time, we do gifts here through the office with a lot of our owners. Probably have
Love that
about a
idea.
35 to 45% uptake
Yep.
of owners giving out a random selection of gifts that we put together, 5 different price point gifts that the owners can choose from. Then we go buy them all, package them all up. We handwrite a card and actually write it from the owner, not from us.
Yeah,
and we go
that's
deliver it on behalf of the owner.
That's great.
So
it was actually really fun. It was like Santa's Little Helpers.
Yeah.
I went and did a little video for them, and
I remember that. That was a
Lots
cool
of
little
happy
video.
little-
Yeah, I remember that now.
happy little
Yeah.
tenants out there. So, and
yeah, and
Yeah,
like
that's a good idea.
some owners are amazingly generous. Like you just fall over with how much they want to give back and look after their tenants. It's really good to see. And I think the tenants are in shock. They don't expect it. And then the second advantage is that they do feel the appreciation. They do feel that the owners like what they're doing with the property and like the fact they're looking after the property.
Well, and then that capitalises on your relationship with the tenant too, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, there's obviously, by us handing them over, we get a bit of rapport out of the tenants as well. So, but we always, with us, we want to make sure the owners do know that the owners are paying for it, but the gift's not coming from 414 Real Estate. We might deliver
Absolutely,
it,
yeah.
but the card is signed with the
By the
owner's
owner.
name.
Yep.
So, and we'll take a photo of that card and send it through to the owner to show to the owner that, yep, this is what we did. We sent it out as you asked for us.
Yeah, it's really, look, we're trying to help you build your relationship, not ours.
Yeah. Well, build your relationship through us.
Yeah,
I
that's
guess
it,
so.
It's funny you say that. Sometimes the tenants don't know how to react or whatever. The first time we dropped off these gifts, rocked up to the front door with some notice. We didn't just rock up to the front door out of nowhere.
Yep.
But hand over these gifts, and the tenants are like, "Oh, what's this? How much is it going to cost? What are you trying to do to me
you're
here?
selling this
what are you
Girl
about
Guide
to-"
biscuits or something. Yeah.
Or it's like, what are you about to do? You about to like tell me I'm going to get kicked out or what's going on? So yeah,
Kill them with kindness and knock them down.
so you catch them off guard.
Well, I mean, one of the things that it's probably easy for people to think is that, it's easy for you. You've got 2 properties because you've got a property. But what were you doing before you bought your first one to help get you to that position? I'm guessing it's not an easy road.
To the position of the second property.
No, to even buy your first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, like again, I'm not an expert with money, but just I'm pretty good at saving money. To be honest, like I just won't piss it away. I suppose
You
too much.
spend less than you earn.
Spend less than I earn. Yeah, I know. I mean,
So that's what
it's
we're doing wrong, John.
Yeah, bloody hell. It's totally the enlightening piece of advice that people want to hear.
Knew you shouldn't have bought that cane, Pat.
Well, I suppose
I was about to rattle my own self.
I suppose
Roll with it.
One thing, I don't know if this is like one other thing that I did was when I set myself up for this first one, and what I'll continue to do is I set up with an offset account that I could redraw from with no redraw fees. So, and what that means for anyone who might not understand, like it just means I've got my mortgage account, my loan, and all the money that I make just goes into that, and it means I can just take money out. So, because I do also like something about locking money away that I can never touch. It's like, what if all of a sudden, next year it's like, stuff this, I want to go on a holiday, or
Yeah.
that's I still want that flexibility or whatever. Maybe that's the Gen Y inside me. It's just like, anyway. But that just a good setup from the beginning allowed me to do that. If I wanted to, I can just access my money whenever I want. But even to start with, out of nowhere, that was look, it was just a matter of, I suppose the first place I got was a little cheaper than the one I got now. Like it was not particularly expensive.
Yep.
I borrowed pretty much as much as I could to get the place, But honestly, it just I didn't have a huge history of working, as in the sense I hadn't been saving up for like 10 years to get this place. It was just buy what I could afford, set myself up appropriately, and just start with whatever I can, and from there,
small steps.
Just the smallest thing you can. And I suppose that's the whole thing with I was renting at the time, and that goes to the concept of rent vesting.
Right? I know about this.
Aaron's favourite topic.
So Nick Nadanui told me about this one.
There we go. So obviously said the magic word just then.
So that's something that you were technically doing, I guess.
Yes.
So you were renting elsewhere.
And to be honest, I didn't even know the term.
You just accidentally did
All right. Until a giant man came on my screen and told me all about it.
Yeah, but certainly at the time, but it
I'll
did.
look that video up.
I've obviously missed a.
In a previous podcast, before I was doing any research, and I was just the guy that didn't
Press the buttons.
Yeah, I just pressed the buttons.
The wrong ones.
I'd watched this realestate.com video, and Nick Nadanui mansplained or sportsplained rent vesting, and I came in with, boys, I learnt something this week. It's called rent vesting.
He's very excited.
I hung my hat on that. I can't believe the Mercury didn't write an article about that.
Yeah.
Aaron learned something.
So obviously, for people that didn't hear that episode, do you want to explain what rent vesting is?
No, they can just go back and find the episode, go back and listen to all the property pods. No, essentially you rent in a place
Where you want to live.
And you buy and invest in a place that you can afford, and you kind of keep rotating that through. Blake, get me out of water here.
Yeah, no, look, essentially the concept, I won't go into the details of the whole, but it's just essentially, if I wanted to live in the city, right in Hobart.
Yep.
I can't afford to buy a place right in Hobart.
Yep.
Not by a long shot, especially not with the first one. So it got put to me a really good way by the mate I was talking to when I was that started this whole thing, which was the rent I want to pay to live in Hobart. I'm willing to pay that premium. There's a small premium to pay for a place that I want to live in,
Sure,
that I can't afford to buy,
Right.
and that allows me the affordance of being able to then invest. Buy an investment property that I can afford. And I mean, it did help. I was in a share house. I was paying like between four of us, 100. I was like $110 a week. Like it was dirt cheap. Mind you, one of us was living in
the hallway,
pretty much the attic.
Yeah.
Seriously,
That's another throwback for everyone.
oh, hey, there we go. But like I was, we do what we could.
Yep.
Like that was we rented the cheapest place we could in Hobart. I bought the cheapest place I could out. Anywhere.
Yep.
And that was just all I needed. All you need that first start. That's all I got, and then that's just allowed me to. I'm going to say snowball, but it's only the second one. But that will eventually allow me to snowball a bit further.
Yeah,
It's just
And I guess the thing, the thought that came into my head is you weren't trying to keep up appearances. You were just looking for the best opportunities and making those decisions in order to get to where you wanted to be.
That's it. Yeah. Well, and I suppose so. Like when it came, and sometimes when I talk to friends who are like, I'm looking at doing investment properties. What advice have you got from your time? And it's just like, just really understand what you want to do with your money. Like, because some people say, oh yeah, I love that idea, I love what you did, but then they get to the dilemma of, I want to buy a place, but I don't want to buy a place there. And it's like, well, what?
Yep.
Like, what do you actually want? Do you just want the investment? Are you kind of thinking about living in it?
Yep.
Do you actually care? Do you want it to be, in like a particular suburb? Are you looking for Moona or something? If you don't care, then just get the best place for an investment.
And then build from there as you're doing.
Yep.
Yeah, just be real clear about what you want. And that, for me, that was real clear right from the get-go. It was like,
I reckon that's the biggest problem most people have is that they try to envision where they want to live instead of just buying what's best from a business perspective.
Yep.
And you have to treat your portfolio like a business.
Yep.
You can't really have an emotional attachment to it. It's nice if you can get a neat and tidy place, but it needs to work the numbers, and that's really, as an investor, all you should really care about is
exactly it.
What the house is worth, what it brings in. Everything else is irrelevant realistically.
Yep.
Well, I know one of the some of the most challenging people that we work with are those that have, it was, their family house, they inherited it. And now all of a sudden it's their investment property, and they are there. They're driving past every week because they're freaking out someone's going to stuff something up because they grew up there. Their grandparents had that house, so they're way too emotionally involved in it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, guys, I am emotionally involved in this conversation. I'm having a really fun time, but time is getting away from us, and Blake, I assume, has to get back to the real world. We can continue doing this all day, as everyone's heard. But Blake, man, it's been awesome having you in.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
It's been good.
Thanks very much.
Brought a lot, and I've had heaps of fun. You're welcome back anytime. We can,
Yeah, appreciate it.
even if you're not investing in stuff, we'll just invest in you.
All right.
Because I think we've got a new team member.
Hit me up when it's time for my, my Mercury headline. And we'll talk.
Yeah, awesome.
Not a drama
We
at
can't
all.
afford you once you've been in the Mercury.
Yeah, fair call. Rates will be pretty high.
Awesome, guys. So, from there, I think that's the property pod for this week. It's it's been heaps of fun. I've really enjoyed chatting with you, man.
Yeah, cheers. You guys too. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for having me on.
Thanks,
Not
mate.
a problem. Thank you, everyone out there listening. Thanks to the boys for talking. Pat, thanks for not jingling all your gold around too much on the mics.
Getting real heavy.
Thanks for taking the heat for one episode.
Yeah, it's all good.
John's just like, oh, man, I had the best morning.
You can see the weight off your shoulders.
And anyone out there that's listening will do what every podcast does again, but it's really helpful to like, share, subscribe, do all the things that keep people listening. And as the Mercury did the other day, we'll just keep bantering away and we'll have heaps of fun. So thanks for joining the property pod this week.
Awesome. Till next time.
See you later.
See you guys.
414 Real Estate has been operating within the northern suburbs of Hobart since 2006. With their innovative approach to marketing and managing your property, they have all your property needs covered. Find out more by visiting them today at 414.com.au.